Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. A quick info before we begin. Today's video has 2 stories and both of them have updates. Now let's get started with the first one. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Bitter, Very Bitter. My 24 female boyfriend, 25 male of 1 year recently picked up and moved 15 hours away for absolutely no reason. Things have been extremely rough ever since. This is a throwaway, but F it, I'm not limiting my details because I need help understanding what's going on. So I've been with my boyfriend John for over a year now and everything has been great. We've honestly had a fun year together with minimal issues and drama and have had talks about our future together. I truly consider him one of my best friends. John, although young, has been married and divorced. He disclosed this to me during one of our first conversations and it's never really been an issue for me. A quick synopsis. Married very young, absolutely didn't work out, is now no contact with ex-wife and no kids. Anyway, John lost his job a little over 2 months ago and it was a pretty big blow to him because he had just been given a positive evaluation and raised shortly before that. To add insult to injury, the company was very small and most of the people working there were like family to one another. He was able to pick up another job doing similar work quickly, but the hours weren't nearly as steady. Lately, he's begun expressing his desire to go back to Chicago, where he's from. Over the holidays, he and I spent a lot of time there visiting his family, so I was supportive of the idea and would love to move there myself one day eventually. Then, like 3 weeks or so ago, John mentioned that he might be moving to North Carolina. Out of nowhere, his childhood friend, also from Chicago but living in our city, has family there who agreed to let the two of them stay rent-free while they look for a job and a place. It was all very whirlwind and in a matter of 1 week, he had packed everything in his car and left. John has been in North Carolina for 3 weeks now and it's been absolute hell for me. I'm still reeling from him literally picking up and leaving, and I'm struggling not to be resentful when he talks about how tough it's been on him to start over. It's tough on me too. I didn't even have a say. I understand that our relationship is fairly new and I can't even tell him what to do with his life, but I felt like a total non-factor in this decision and really hurt by the way he went about it. To top it off, in the past few weeks, he's made less of an effort with communication, FaceTiming me, calling and responding to texts. And then I see him posting on Facebook and Snapchat all day. It really makes me feel crappy, like I'm not a priority. When I've tried to talk to him about all of this, he'll say he understands where I'm coming from, but he had to take this opportunity to start fresh somewhere else and to do something for himself and be selfish for once. He then tells me that I need to focus on myself and doing what I want and my own career, which is true, but I can't help but feel like we're in this awful limbo. I feel like a robot these days because I miss him so much and there's literally no trace of him here anymore. He's busy starting a new life somewhere fantastic and I'm just part of the stress he left behind. What am I supposed to do? Aw man, your boyfriend's a coward. Hopefully he becomes a future ex-boyfriend, OP, because I think that's what he's aiming to get out of this. He just doesn't have the spine to actually say it, to break up with you. He just picked up his things, moved away, and is talking about him being selfish and it's time for him and that you should do the same. He takes a lot more time to reply to your messages now, however he's posting all over Facebook and Snapchat at all moments. OP, maybe you are too close to the problem because you are very emotionally involved, but the thing is, this relationship is over. So to your question, what are you supposed to do? Whatever you can to make yourself whole and move forward. If you need to break up with him, if you need to ghost him, if you need to call him out, whatever it is you need to do, as long as it's, within reason, then do that. But the first thing you need to do is accept that this relationship is over. This limbo that you guys are in will be indefinite unless you do something because your boyfriend clearly doesn't have the character to face you and break up with you. And honestly, somebody like that, good riddance. You don't need weak-ass people in your life. And what do you guys think about OP's situation? What would you do if you were in her shoes? How would you face this situation that your partner just up and left? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Steve353 says, so your boyfriend, who you're supposedly in a serious relationship in, made a life-changing decision without even talking it over with you? And now he's checking out from the relationship as well? If starting out fresh is what he wants, I'd let him start out fresh with his romantic life as well. Your boyfriend proved that he doesn't care about you and your feelings when it comes to his life. And OP responds, ouch, you're right. OtterHouse5 says, a year in, couples your age are usually thinking about how to grow closer together and settle down by finding careers in the same city and living together. By moving away from you without notice, reducing contact, and encouraging you to focus on yourself instead of finding some way to reunite with you by having you move to him or him move to you, he is signaling that he is not as deeply invested in the relationship as you are. I would go so far as to say that this is a gutless breakup, that's what I think. And he has ended the relationship and just decided not to tell you about it. If I were you, I would make the breakup official. And OP responds, I'm just so heartbroken because my last 2 relationships had involved distance of some sort. So I was thrilled to finally be dating someone I could see and touch and was only a 20-minute drive from me, and it still turned into this. He's talked about flying me out there next month or so when he has the money, but is in no hurry for me to move and join him. Flux8 says, I think he's having a quarter-life crisis, probably precipitated by the recent loss of his job and probably initiated by his early marriage or divorce. I mean, it took him less than a month. What? To move 15 hours away. He's probably depressed and thus thinking only about what he wants. He flat out says it. Sorry to say this, but I think the relationship is already dead for him. He just didn't have the balls to break up with you to your face. As much pain as you think you're in now, try to imagine how much worse it could be if this immature, selfish side of him surfaced 5 years later after you were married and had a kid. I know this for a fact because it happened to a very close woman friend of mine. You can't see it yet, but this is a blessing in disguise. No need to break up with him or have a chat either. He's not texting or FaceTiming. That just makes it easier. Go no contact. And OP responds, I suspect that you are right. It's so frustrating because he has a tendency not to open up to me about things and somehow expects me to know what's going on with him. I have given him several outs and he refuses to take them, so I'm just confused because obviously his actions speak to him wanting to only focus on himself, but he keeps insisting he wants to be with me still. That's because he's a coward and wants you to do the breakup. Additional information from OP's comments. I know he's going through something and it is either bigger than me or has nothing to do with me, but I just want to try and make it work because we had such an amazing relationship. Whether it's a quarter-life crisis, depression, the feeling of being trapped, or whatever, those things were under the surface before I ever came along. He probably isn't ready to settle down again after being married and divorced at such a young age, which is something I had asked him about in the past, but he always stated that he was. Who knows? I'm going to link him to my post tonight. I don't think he's being heartless on purpose. It's just not his character. He's just too blinded by what's going on for him right now. Maybe comments from others will at least get him to open his eyes. I don't want him to get defensive or feel attacked, especially if he's struggling with something. I do wish he would see some of the points made here though, just because it isn't coming from me for once, but you're right, it's not going to change anything. Sad face. I asked him if he wants to end this and have a clean break and he says no, but his actions obviously say otherwise. And also, it doesn't seem as though he is suffering much at all, or if he is, he's very good at hiding it. This is all so confusing. However, if it comes to it, I have to break up. I don't know why I'm finding myself so paralyzed to do so. It's probably unfair to both of us to continue. I'm asking for more than he can give, but I also deserve more than what he's giving. Alright, well the community is pretty clear that they're not very fond of OP's boyfriend, they think he wants to break up and he's also spineless. And it seems that OP is coming around to that way of thinking, although she still kinda wants to give it a last try. So on that note, let's move on with the update to see what happened next and how the story ends. But of course before that, here's another one of my playlists for you to enjoy after this video. Now let's move on with that update. Hi guys, my original post garnered more attention than I've ever personally received here, so I thought I'd do an update. Shortly after my post, John, the boyfriend, and I broke up. Big surprise, right? It was mostly mutual, but still really sucked. He pushed to try and make things work. What does that even mean? And would constantly flip-flop from, I'm never moving back, to, well, I'll move back for you. No thanks. A, I wasn't a reason to stay here in the first place, so why would I be the reason why he would move back? And B, seems like a quick path to resentment if I'm the sole reason he would be moving back. So yeah, we broke up. I unceremoniously sent back what few belongings of his I had to his new address. We went no contact shortly after. Details emerged several weeks following from various sources. It asked mutual friends and randoms that while we were dating, there were always girls at his apartment. Okay, cool. Didn't know what to believe. Then a week ago, I was cleaning out my car and found makeup under the passenger seat that didn't belong to myself or any of my female friends. I also should add that John would borrow my car on occasion during our relationship, so I don't know, he was probably also cheating or at the very least being shady. Somehow this person I'm not even with anymore continues to be able to hurt me. Why can't the scumbags be blatantly obvious about being scumbags though? He ultimately was the king of being selfish. It just took this for me to realize it. Luckily, other areas of my life are coming together nicely. I recently got a job that I love. I'm also working at 2 different places 7 days a week, so I don't have time to be a total mess. My new job doesn't quite have full-time hours available for me yet, so I'm filling in the gaps with my previous one for the time being. I have more money than I've ever had in my entire life and no longer have to sweat bullets when it comes to pay my bills. I am currently still in the post-breakup phase of crying in my car on the way home from work sometimes, if I'm particularly exhausted. I've done all the stereotypically moving on stuff, like cutting my hair, going on a few dates, getting drunk, shopping, masturbating, etc. But I still miss him and he still occupies a good portion of my thoughts. Just kind of waiting for it to pass, I guess. I need to stop being so impatient with myself to move on. It's making me feel miserable. I've been in a few serious relationships over the years and this has been the most I've struggled with a breakup thus far. But I know time will be the ultimate cure for how I'm feeling right now. I just wish to speed up the clock. So yeah, thanks again to everyone who offered words of advice, wisdom or kindness when I came here 2 months ago totally wrecked emotionally. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, whatever comes next is totally effing awesome and I won't have anything to post about anymore. Upside down smiley face. Alright OP, definitely a positive update. Yes, it has some drops of bitterness in it still, but it'll be okay soon. As you say, time will help you heal, and unfortunately, you can't speed up the clock. You can't slow it down either, and I think that's the bigger issue. So on that note, OP, I'm just gonna say, stay the course, keep moving forward and working on yourself, and you'll be fine in no time. Thank you so much for sharing, OP, and take care. Now, let's move on to the next post that, like I said in the beginning, also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Deleted. My female 30 fiance, male 40, is going on a trip with his friend, female 27, for his bachelor party. My jealousy ruins every happy feeling towards the wedding. Okay, so my fiance has just one good friend, and that is a girl he met through work about 7 years ago. We have been together 3 years. There have never been any romantic feelings between them, and I believe him because when I see them together, they display a very sibling-like relationship. He proposed to me in January, and we are getting married next month. And because he only has this one good friend, he makes her his best man and she has planned an overnight trip to a city with a stay at a hotel. They are going to sleep in the same room, probably even in the same bed, and I'm finding myself becoming very jealous, so much so that I want to cancel the whole wedding, and I hate that I feel this way because I know they would never do anything wrong. I think the problem is a few different things. One, my fiance is not very fond of traveling and doing something new, so it's rare for us to go on such trips, and I become selfish and would like for us to go together instead. She is much more pretty, funny, and has a lot more self-confidence than me. So I'm afraid that a trip with her would remind him of the ugly, depressed, and boring girl he has waiting at home. And even though I'm not afraid that he will have an affair with her, it's still painful knowing he will be that close to another girl. I work really hard with myself and my negative thoughts every day, but this is just too much. Could someone give me a virtual slap in the face? I just want to feel some joy about my own wedding. Sad face. Oh wow, okay, there's a lot of things here, OP. On one side, boundaries, and on the other, I believe your insecurities and the way you feel about yourself. Let's address the first one, boundaries. Yeah, he can go on a trip with his friend and it's all good, but do they have to share the same room, like the same bed even? I don't think that's jealousy, OP. I just think that's being uncomfortable because you've got boundaries. Now, the second part that has me a little bit more worried are your insecurities and the way that you talk about yourself and you compare yourself with her. You call yourself ugly, depressed, and boring. You do mention that you work hard with yourself on your negative thoughts, but you don't mention if you're getting any help with them. If you're not, I think you should. It could help you a lot. And regarding your relationship, OP, because of your insecurities and the boundaries that you don't feel comfortable with, I think you and your husband, or your future husband, sorry, need to sit down and have a very deep conversation about all of that. Because I get the impression from the way that you've written your post that these aren't things that you guys have addressed. So I think you guys should focus on that first. And what do you guys think about this whole thing? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. The inimitable Gizmo says, why do they have to share the same room or bed? That's where I'd draw the line. NM Broad says, I'm probably in the minority here, but from the limited information you have supplied, I think 80% of it is your problem and 20% is him. He should not be staying in the same room. That's the only thing that I think is wrong. All the other things are your insecurities. He hasn't done anything to exacerbate them. Likewise, the fact that he only has one close friend like that leads me to ensure that you respect that. I recently lost my best friend of 20 years due to his wife being, quite frankly, a see you next Tuesday. I couldn't imagine if it was my only friend. Bus E says, quote, they are going to sleep in the same room, probably even in the same bed. End quote. That's gonna be a no from me, dog. I would tell him you are not okay with that. I know it's partly your problem for being jealous, but I'm sure he will understand it. If he doesn't, I would think twice about trusting this situation. Sorry if this was not what you wanted to hear. Just tell him. Additional information from OP's comments. They're sleeping in the same bed to reduce cost, and they don't see the problem with sharing a room because if we were two girls or two guys, it would be okay. Just because we're a boy and a girl sharing a room doesn't mean we have to have sex. My feelings are pretty torn about this because on one hand, this is not okay and crossing my boundaries, but on the other hand, I know they're just friends and I trust him, and I feel so bad now for ruining his trip. Sad face. OP's edit. I have told him that a shared room is okay, but that I'm not okay with a shared bed. I don't want to lay down a lot of rules for him. I'm not his boss and I trust him and them. And he has agreed to these terms. But oh my god, these few weeks until that trip will be hard nevertheless. OP's edit number 2. Okay, thanks to all of the replies I got from you guys, I sat down with my fiance and told him about how upset this made me. I said that I would not deny him anything, but I made it clear that this was hard for me. He got very affectionate and said that he did not want me to be upset. He is going to talk to his friend and tell her that he will not spend the night with her. The bachelor trip will have to be a day trip without a sleepover. So he respected my feelings and made a compromise that made me feel much better. Smiley face. Just a reminder to myself about what a nice man I'm marrying. Alright, well the community gave different perspectives, but most of them were talking about boundaries. And OP in her second edit also told us that they talked about this and there was a compromise, which is a good thing. So now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. First of all, they are not going on the trip and he has agreed to set some boundaries. The reason they thought it was appropriate is that they have both been single for the majority of their life and friendship, so they still have that mindset that everything is okay. And the fact that the friendship has always been platonic is also a reason for them thinking this was not a big deal. And I imagine it's hard for him to readjust his thoughts about some things, my boundaries. We also agreed that we both had issues we should work on before getting married, my issues mainly being my insecurities. So after talking some more with my fiance, we actually decided to postpone our wedding. As I said, we talked a lot about boundaries and I told him that some things are not okay for me. The whole thing kind of stirred up all the things that had been lying under the surface of our relationship. So the decision to postpone the wedding was not just because of this one thing. It was just the spark that started our cleanse. At first, I was really sad, but this is a very good thing. I had so many negative feelings about the wedding, and now we have the opportunity to fix what's wrong. He agreed to see a couples therapist with me, so maybe the next time we try, we'll feel much more right, and we'll have mostly happy feelings. Smiley face. Thank you to everyone who commented on the last post. You made me actually take the difficult step of talking about boundaries. Alright, OP, I'm gonna call this a positive update. You guys have spoken, you guys agreed on something good about postponing the wedding, and you're gonna work together on your relationship. I would also suggest you do individual counseling for your insecurities. Again, I don't know if you're already doing something about it, but you mentioned it, however you didn't mention you were gonna do something about it. Just saying. In any case, OP, here's wishing you and your future husband all the best in the future. Take care and thank you for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.